Welcome to the Power of Design podcast, where we have inspiring conversations that explore the intersection of architecture, construction, and real estate, so we can understand the dynamics and trends that shape an exciting and powerful built environment. This is your host, Jack Osa. In this episode of the Power of Design podcast, I'm having a conversation with Mike Muoio. Mike has been selling disruptive technologies in the construction industry for more than 20 years. During our conversation, we talk about architectural design, commercial real estate, and construction cost control. This is my conversation with Mike. Mike, welcome to the Power of Design podcast. How are you today?
I'm great, Jack. Thanks for having me.
Mike, you have an incredible amount of experience working in the design and construction industry, helping your clients make smart decisions about products or systems to use in their buildings. What do you think is the most common mistake designers and building owners make when they're selecting building components for their projects?
Oh, you got a gotcha question right out of the gate.
That's right.
For all my architect friends are going to be waiting for my response. No, it's a very good question and definitely a nice way to start. I would say, though, that the biggest mistake that baffles me to this day is how every single project starts in VE. You contract an architect, create a schematic design, you get a budget. 1 to 2 years later, the project starts and you're $1 million plus over. And I'm not claiming dishonesty on anyone's part, but like Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So I just don't understand how we start there. So what happens is that's my initial introduction. So I'm now turned over from the owner to the team, and we've got no money. And what I would say is, as it relates to material choice, beyond the VE dilemma, I think that there's a lack of genuine curiosity and due diligence research into what is proven to enhance the occupant experience and have a positive outcome on health, wellness, and productivity. Not to mention, NOI, net operating income. I think there's this focus, maybe because they're behind the ball on, VE, that they discount anything that would add a penny to the project, or they look at it with skepticism.
Yeah.
But what I like to do is I wish there was a process where we can challenge and put every single material choice through this equation that says, what value are you adding to the project? Is there any measurable, confirmed, third-party reviewed value that you're offering? And that's where we should start, instead of the big line item, that they typically draws attention.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because, as you said, like we keep doing that over and over again. Every process, construction project goes through that process, which I understand. You always want to be responsible with the resources. You want to make good decisions. But at the same time, we waste a lot of time. We waste a lot of professional man hours just going through, like a schematic design or a concept design that is not going to be built. And we're just wasting that. And part of that might be just how detached is the design from the construction industry, because we don't really have a good understanding of cost. And sometimes the cost of the material, but the end cost of the user is way more than that. Once you start talking about labor or warranties and all these things. And the other thing is that decision, you cannot make it in a bubble. You need to understand maintenance, long term. And usually those discussions are not at the table when we're talking about projects at the very beginning.
No, I mean, those are all valid points. And the one group I left out is the owner. Right. So owner probably starts with build me this box in this color. Of course, I'm just I'm freestyling here.
Yeah.
And then as the project gets closer, they're like, whoa, well, why don't we do this? And why don't we put a stairwell in between the two floors? And, and so everyone can be seen. And I get things evolve, but I'm just wondering, I just wish there was a way that I could enter a job one day and everyone say, you know what? We got $1 million extra, and I'm just, and it goes to the organization that can offer the best return for our occupants.
No, I just wanted to keep going and understand about you, Mike, as a professional. I've known you for some years now, and I'm always very curious about your career, because you're always like with these very interesting materials and ideas, and we always have very interesting conversations. Tell me about yourself. Where did you grow up?
So I grew up on an island, for real. It's an island called Grand Island. Of course, if I'm going to grow up on an island, why not have it called Grand? But it is on the far western side of New York. It actually sits between Niagara Falls, Canada, and Buffalo.
Okay.
And if it were to detach it, go over the falls in about 20 minutes. That's where I spent almost 30 years of my life before moving here 26 years ago.
Wow. And where did you go to school?
I just realized I gave up my age. So college, you're speaking of, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I went to a small Division II school outside of Erie, Pennsylvania, called Edinburgh University. And fun fact, they recruited me to play football. Now, this is a guy who can't run a 5-flat downhill with the wind. So I'm not sure what they were thinking, but after I quit football 2 years in, I stayed the rest of the time and thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Nice. And how did you get into the construction industry?
We're in the Buffalo area, Grand Island, and my wife wants to get her PhD. Now, she's the rock star in our family, and anybody who knows me real well realizes that. It was clearly my best sale of all time, right? So I closed that one early, 30 years ago. Actually, 31 years ago tomorrow's our anniversary. So she wanted to get her PhD. She picked a few different places. Chapel Hill was the first place to visit. We came and we canceled the rest of the trips. So we moved in. I started, another fun fact, I started with an office furniture dealership in Raleigh, and learned pretty quickly that not all dealerships are the same. So fortunately, I found SMED International. You'll remember them through my experience with the dealership. And that company was 8 years of fun. It was like selling for a fraternity. I mean, you believed in the cause, you played hard, you worked hard. And then when we sold SMED, I ended up getting my GC license and real estate license. Again, more info you probably didn't know. And I created a company called Build Smart Commercial Interiors. I was going to do it. I was going to apply everything I learned at SMED about modular interiors. And then Mogan SMED flew in. 24 hours later, I'm now working for Dirt. So I spent combined between those two 21 years and thought I was going to retire until someone introduced me to View almost 5 years ago. And I'm very happy for that. It's a very exciting ride.
So have you always been in the sales role in those organizations?
Yep, I was. And up until my time at SMED, I never really had like a deep passion. And then, I know, being an architect, you had that probably in high school. But it took me at SMED to really become passionate about what I do. And now I'm very big with the environment. And it just confounds me today that we're working with, gypsum board that's 100 plus years old and still, putting it in the landfill. I always tell people it's designed for the landfill. It's just making a pit stop in your space. But that got my passion fired up. And now View has taken it up to the next level. So I've always been in sales, a little bit of management, but always customer facing.
How has your sales process or technique has been evolving throughout time as you gain experience?
It's a great question because I am over 50. I already told you that. And you would think, some people would think that, you're set in your ways. I just think personally, I'm very curious. I'm curious about you going out, starting your own company when we got together, a few years back, and Mike Grippo and Chris Butlak. And I just think I'm just curious about everything. So I have that. I'm always asking why. And that's a real good starting point if you want to be in sales, because, no one wants to be sold. You want to fit a need with a solution. And so by the time I start talking to people, I'll find out right away if it's a good fit or not. And so I think just being curious, I got humility and honesty are probably the three things I bank on.
Nice. What have been one example of a good process where you went through, the first stages, going through like a big sale at the end that you feel proud of?
Oh my God. I've got so many. You would think I'm corny if I tell you I never forget about my sales. And when I meet people, I'm so excited to hear how happy, they are. And so here's a funny story. My son, who was at the time, 8, 9, 10, we'd drive around town and I'd point to that building and I'd say, see that building? My walls are in that building.
Yeah.
And he would be like, yeah, whatever. Now I pull up and I'd say, see that building? That's my glass. You can see it.
Yeah.
It's a 30 plus year commitment. So, boy, I'll tell you, my first deal was with Tribe Properties at Churchill Hall in Durham. Charlotte Douglas Airport was pretty exciting. And then recently, Kane Realty, arguably one of the best, if not the best developer in North Carolina or the Southeast for that matter. And right in his signature properties, put a big building with my glass. I can't even tell you how that made me feel.
That's awesome.
So that I'd say probably the last one was probably most significant.
Yeah, and especially since when you know that you're delivering a quality product, that you're really helping not only the owner, but the future owners, because that building is going to be there for, 100, 200 years. So everybody that is going to be interacting with that product, they're going to be seeing the benefit of that.
Yeah, and it's funny because we try to help them lease. We try to help the brokers communicate the value. Then we do the install. Then we meet with the tenants and we try to explain what's going on. And we offer a microsite that they can go to answer questions. People just aren't used to that, right? Mm-hmm. Your glass companies, you don't even know the reps. I mean, it ships. They don't even know it ships. It probably shows up on the report. But we're full immersion into the experience. So it's kind of feel like a proud parent when you have your buildings growing up with different people. And so, it gets me very excited.
Yeah. And that's why I created, the Power of Design podcast, because I saw a detachment between the three main groups that create the built environment. You have the design community, you have the construction community, and then you have the real estate community, people making deals happen, commercial bankers, like the money needs to come out of somewhere, and then somebody needs to build it, somebody needs to source the product, somebody needs to specify it. And all those three silos, we work together during projects and maybe at networking events, and you kind of develop relationships with a few people, but you don't have deeper conversations about who we are and how we work together. And that was the origin of why I started this podcast.
I think it's brilliant. And you've gone, several steps further too. Not only did you start that conversation, but I mean, the people that are learning things. I mean, you have David Dooley on the air for an hour. Yeah. If he charged for that time, God knows what it would cost, what it's worth, right? And he's sharing his wisdom. So what you've done was incredible. I can't believe that lane wasn't there beforehand, but all the power to you. This was great.
Thanks,
brilliant.
Man. Mike, tell me about your role today with Vue. Tell me about the product and what your role is within the organization, and how is that product enhancing the buildings we have today.
Gotcha. I'm the regional director of the Carolinas plus Tennessee. I actually probably have a few more states, but we're focusing on truly North Carolina and Tennessee as the focal points. And my goal is and my mission is to go out and find clients, developers, and architects that share our belief in building a better experience for the occupants.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of corny, but look, not every developer or architect is a good fit.
Sure.
And we offer something that they don't need. We believe it's better for the space. The occupants, we survey our occupants, and 96% of the North Carolina people sitting occupants behind our glass are thrilled with it and would never go behind low E and blind. So we see we're doing the right things, but we're not for everyone. And what we do is in a nutshell, we basically eliminate blinds. So think of I always tell people, I try to get too technical, and then it's like those transition lenses that are intelligent.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have transition lenses, they go outside, they darken. Ours is a little different in that ours is electrochromic technology, meaning we tint it in advance of the sun's arrival. So we tint it before you have discomfort. And we take into consideration the building and the situation where it's situated, the architecture, the recess, or what have you. Where are the people inside? And there's a very robust algorithm that basically programs the glass to tint into the appropriate tint state that maintains unobstructed views 24/7, no blinds, right? And it eliminates glare or manages glare, let's say that. And it increases daylight, which you would think is a conflict, but it really is not, because we're managing glare on the south facade while letting sun in on the east facade,
yep.
Right? So it manages, it's a very slick system. And what we're doing now is truly fascinating. We're now branching into the next deliverable, because since we're connected around the perimeter of the building, we're now bringing IoT, 5G, Wi-Fi. We're bringing a host of sensors through the building that will analyze the space, address COVID and some of the measurements, indoor air quality, and we'll be able to use our glass. This is George Jetson stuff, but you can now actually have videos on your glass.
Yeah.
And you can do a zoom on your glass. So that's the company, and that's the evolution of where we are and where we're going.
That's amazing. I'm really excited about that because, architecture, by definition, is very simple. Since the beginning of time, probably the first people that inhabited the earth, they just to get into a cave, and that was the first building, and you started building a little roof with some branches. So that sense of shelter is always been there, but part of one of the characteristics is that it's been static. You get what you get, yeah. and that's why buildings get old and they have a lot of problems and they don't evolve. But the fact that you guys are taking something like glass, which is used in every single building, and now you're introducing technology to it, is opening a whole new range of possibilities for the built environment. So I think that's amazing.
That's right.
And eventually, I think that's going to happen with pretty much every single material once we get to the technology where you can do that with paint or do it within concrete, because if it can be done with glass, it can be done with other things.
Exactly. And no disrespect to the people in the field, the architects and the developers, but we all know that real estate is construction is the slowest evolving industry, right?
Yep.
And I think it's because it's inherent that you're managing risk, someone else's money, and there's a reluctance to change. So all these things add up. And boy, I tell you, the architect's job is not easy. You're in the middle there. You've got a client on one end, telling you what they want, and then you got on the other end what it costs, and you're stuck in the middle trying to somehow make some magic. So it's not easy, but I do think there's some things on the horizon that are going to accelerate the adoption. So I'm pretty excited about the future.
We'll be right back with more from the Power of Design podcast.
The Power of Design podcast is brought to you by OSA Studio, a multidisciplinary design firm focused on creating impactful experiences through the power of design. We partner with our clients to create buildings, interior spaces, brands, and strategies that help you deliver a successful project. As a minority-owned firm, we are committed to building a diverse platform of curious and driven design professionals so we can together pursue our full potential. For more information, please visit us at www.osastudio.com.
What kind of clients do you typically work with?
So, we have several. Like, just to give you an idea, I don't know if you know my list of them, but Charlotte Douglas Airport, Corning Optical's headquarters. We did that with Beacon. It recently sold for a record to Crown. We just wrapping up Cousins NASCAR building. First floor had
so a lot of office buildings.
Yep. We've got 2 spec buildings with Longfellow. We have one with Tri Properties, and this is in Durham. We've got, of course, Kane Realty, I just mentioned. We have East Carolina University Student Union Center and a lovely private company in Boone called Jackson Sumner and Associates. Those are the bigger ones.
Yeah.
And, the question is not so much about, what is a good fit, because it's really who wants unobstructed views with managed glare and daylight. I mean, right? Everyone's gonna opt in. So really, what it is we look at who might not be the right fit, who doesn't understand the return on investment, who's uninterested or unwilling to take that on. And there's nothing wrong. I won't mention names, but I dealt with a company recently in North Carolina. Boy, this person was a developer, super excited about it. I thought, I don't know of any other client that was more excited. And one thing I missed early in the meetings, when you talk about, listening was my great, attribute. Well, I didn't get this one, because he mentioned that he doesn't build a LEED building, but he likes to build things a couple dollars a square foot less. Nice building, but under the market. And I just thought, well, wow, with my glass, you're going to do even better, right? And I went right by that statement, and fast forward a few months later, didn't get the deal because it cost more, right? So he had a go-to market that's extremely successful for him. I'm sure he makes a ton of money, but it wasn't in an alignment with what we offer. So I think what I got to do is, as tough as it is, I got to find those people that are looking to pioneer the next level of amenity, like the Tri Properties, like the Longfellows, like Kane, who has a meeting after every building, they have a lessons learned. What could we do better? And so we were a natural fit. Now, if we do well on this one, hopefully I'll be back at the door knocking and seeing if we can't make this, get the band back together and do another one.
Sure. What would you say is the biggest challenge your clients are facing today?
Well, I think I've mentioned to cost. I've previously alluded to cost. I mean, that's not going to go away. We know that, right? But now there's this very interesting convergence of issues on the horizon that include increasing technology, which you just mentioned, and then the dramatic changes to real estate that are going to be driven by COVID-19. And then this new thing, ESG reporting and investing. So first, technology. The Microsoft CEO just gave his quarterly earnings report, and he said 2 years of digital transformation happened in just 2 months. Just think about that, right? People need to communicate, collaborate, share information at a rate and connectivity like never before. And this technology-driven productivity that they're getting is not going to go away. It will be demanded in the workplace. So I think technology, would you agree technology is probably one of the biggest?
Oh, shit, sure. Yeah. And I'm excited about that one because I love technology.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I bet. You got a big leap on a lot of people. Then the second is COVID. Okay, we all know, that the impact that it's had, and people will demand better and healthier buildings. How will you address this challenge? Mechanical systems, elevators, walkability, cleaning, temperature checks. You heard a bunch of different things, and it certainly has impacted many of the projects that I've been chasing. But I believe tenants will scrutinize developments in the future like never before. I can honestly see an app that can get created that will help rate what really matters to people and tenants.
Yeah.
Did you know, here's a fun fact. Did you know that Yelp was initially created to help in healthcare?
No idea.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I learned that the other day. Two former PayPal employees designed it because they were having trouble getting an online review for a doctor. And that, now look at it. Okay, it's reviewing just about everything but office buildings.
Right.
So imagine how powerful a space app
Wow.
would work.
That's a great idea.
Let's do it together, because I just made that up. Let's do it.
Man, that makes a lot of sense. People are becoming more educated and more demanding for a space. Even, if you want to attract and retain talent as a company, your office is a big part of that. And people are getting more concerned about that. They want to see, they're valuing more the experience they're going to have at their workplace. So it really matters how your space feels and how healthy it is for you.
Absolutely. And, without COVID, and by means, I'm not saying that there's anything good about COVID, but without something this impactful across the world, this next level of engagement would not be possible. So I do think that is going to be inevitable. And I think there's going to be winners and losers with some of these developers. And I think, the top A grade guys and gals are going to bring in the Googles of the world and the top credit clients, and the rest, they can have their pick of those clients. But the last one is an interesting one. The last convergence of issues is ESG reporting and investing. It's coming very fast. It's how do you rate the environmental areas, the social, and your governance, right? So my son has been telling me about this for a while. He's now 25 years old. He lives in Atlanta, works for a great company called Insight Sourcing Group, a consulting firm. And, he has my passion in the environment, and thank God he's got my wife's brains, being a PhD. And so he's been telling me about this, and I've kind of been brushing it off, but he shared with me a story the other day where he was talking to one of his clients who happens to be an international client. And he was sharing some ideas for this client to take advantage of renewable energy savings. There was initially no interest. And then his client called back and is now interested in the program because the director of sales from his company said this is being mandated from their clients, being pushed down. So again, something that you have no control over. And this trend is happening with other companies like McDonald's and Apple, where their supply chains are, they have to adopt to these new initiatives and lower their carbon footprint by 2030. So it's very, very interesting. And I think you're going to see some of that sustainability being pushed in there. And these ESG ETFs, I don't know if you've seen them, they're outperforming the market. So this is real. The young people want to invest in these companies that take care of their people and the environment.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I think we're living through a very interesting transformation of the physical space now being more integrated with the technology, and then how those two combine create an exciting experience for us, the humans experiencing the space. That's really cool. Mike, how does the power of design impact who you are and what you do?
Right. Well, good question. I believe there will be the leaders, like I mentioned just a second ago, that are going to embrace these trends and deliver higher quality options for tenants. I believe the top companies like Google will look at these places and they'll say, I'm going to go in this building. I'm not going to go in that building. And so I think out of necessity, they're going to have to evolve. Okay. And let's face it, every single one wants the top tenants. And, at our company, we've done a good job of giving people the unobstructed views and eliminating blinds and access to daylight. I think about blinds every time I hear that. It's the only product, I think, named after a human handicap.
Wow.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Blinds. Let's take away their view. It's just, I can't believe that we're still arguing about that point. But I think that they're going to, they meaning the development industry, is going to adapt to these convergence of ideas, and they're going to deliver better products. And you can look at some of the top development firms that have the resources and the money, they will be the first to do it. And if they pass on it, it'll be like those that passed on LEED, right? Except for this is going to happen much more rapidly. Remember, 2 years and 2 months, this might be 10 years worth of progress in 2 years.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you talking to me today. I'm always excited about talking to you, and I look forward to stay in touch.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor to be on this show and included with an amazing bunch of people that I have the utmost respect for, starting with you. So thank you very much, Jack. Keep changing the world, okay?
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for listening to the Power of Design podcast. Remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Find out more about Jack and Osa Studio at osastudio.com and follow us on Instagram at The Power of Design Podcast. Thank you.